Good day, everyone. My name is Bryndan Moore. I'm clearly not True Pettigrew if you know him, and if you've been following our series, True is a incredibly looking but bald-headed man who works for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's the DEI officer over there, and we have partnered to create this incredible series featuring and highlighting Black executives who work in the NBA. And for the sake of really helping to build the applicant base and the inspiration and information base for the NBA, HBCU for, internships that are happening this summer. So if you've been following our first two installments this week, they've been fantastic, and today will be nothing less. We have a guest who is Jackie Wilson. He is the Chief DEI Diversity and Inclusion Officer for BSC Global, which encompasses the Brooklyn Nets, the Brooklyn Liberty, and the Barclays Center. So I'm really happy to be talking to a dude who's a new to Brooklyn dude. We welcome you. I know you've been in New York for 15 years, and we welcome you to the show. And also, I have a lot to talk about in terms of the neighborhood and what's going on there and what it looks like to be really successful in your role. So everyone, welcome our guest. What's going on, brother?
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Listen, I've done the reading. I've seen kind of what your work is, a little bit of your background. And what I want to do is take you back to the beginning. As you know, we're talking to HBCU undergraduate and graduate students about this incredible opportunity to go work with the NBA this summer in one of these internship roles. So I want to ask you, what was your first internship or mentor experience on the receiving side? Did you ever have an internship or a great mentor early in your career?
I would say my first internships actually took place on Capitol Hill. So I worked for a congressman for a little bit, but also worked for the government relations arm of a company. So working on the lobbying side of things, and so that was totally different than what I'm doing now. But gave me my first real foothold into what it looked like to go to work every day. Wake up, be there, be held accountable, and report to someone that was not my parents.
When was this in like age wise? When was this, or where was this in terms of your education?
I was a junior in college when this happened, going into my junior year. So I was about 20. I had just turned 21 years old.
Right. So you're an Atlanta guy who decides to go to Duke, right? What was that decision like? Why did you decide out of every place you could have gone that you went to Duke?
I went there because of Grant Hill. When I was in third grade, Grant Hill joined the basketball team. And my parents liked him, and really, I saw someone that I wanted to be like. He had, parents, had great careers. They had great education. He was dynamic on the court. He was a dynamic student, at a great institution. And so I wanted to be him. And fortunately for me, I made it to Duke. Unfortunately, I only made it to be 5'9", so I did not play on the basketball team.
That's great,
like he did. But that's what got me there.
That's fantastic, and I'm sure you've met him several times as an alum, right? Have you met him at the homecomings and things? Right, exactly. So that's fantastic. So you're off at Duke. You're studying what is it? Public policy.
Yes.
Okay. When you took that major, what were you thinking your career path was going to be at that time?
I knew I wanted to go to law school, so I thought that I would, be a practicing attorney. But I had, my sights on working in politics eventually. So whether I was going to run for office, end up being chief of staff, but I was always interested in politics, but wanted to have that legal background.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you get to your junior year. And how does the opportunity to intern on Capitol Hill find you? Like, how do you become first aware of it?
Guidance counselors at school. We had a great career center at Duke who worked with you. So you worked with your major, and you worked with the head of your major, as well as guidance counselors to help find you. So the same question that you just asked, basically like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I gave that answer.
Right.
And then they showed me some opportunities. I applied for a bunch, um, didn't get half of them, but found myself in a good place, and so no regrets there.
I think that's a huge place that I know we breeze past those things, but I think it's worth stopping. You applied for a bunch, which means you went out for it. You faced some amount of rejection or resistance, right? Maybe the opportunities you applied for were not the right match for you. Maybe they were ultra competitive, and you kept going, and obviously landed in a great spot. I think that's a huge thing to pass on to undergraduate students, in particular, young guys, that we're not going to get instant gratification like you get on social media. And you may have to push through some resistance. Talk about any of that. Is there anything in there is there any talking point in there for you, that any moment that you can reflect on regarding resistance and pushing through?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the way that you summed it up sounds a lot easier than it actually is. It's tough being told no.
Yeah.
We all think highly of ourselves. So how dare an opportunity pass us by to go to someone else? But that's the reality. There are a lot more people looking for opportunities than there are slots available.
Right.
And so, once you get told no a couple of times and get sprinkled in, some yeses and some maybes, you start to see what it looks like. But I had a supportive structure with my parents who would not let
Mm-hmm.
me stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm ultra competitive. And so I was watching, my friends and fraternity brothers get opportunities, and I was like, I can't stop till I get one.
Yeah.
Can't go home.
That's right. That's right. You brought it up. You're in a fraternity. Which fraternity?
Cap Alpha Psi.
Okay, fantastic. I want to
Go
make
to
sure
the
you
Noops.
got to make sure you throw it in there. So you land at Capitol Hill. What is it like getting that first professional opportunity? What did you learn along the way? And not necessarily about the work of Capitol Hill. What did you learn about your positioning in the workforce, in the professional world? How did it shape you?
I learned that I belong, and I think that that's one thing that is oftentimes overlooked. As confident as we are in ourselves, when you get to a big place like Capitol Hill, you're looking around and you're like, who else is going to be here? Did they go to better schools than me? Did they have better grades? Are they more capable? And the answer was yes, some of them, but not all of them.
Yeah.
And so that opportunity gave me a different level of confidence and showed me that I belonged, and I was capable of working in that type of fast paced big environment.
Yeah, I agree. Man, I tell folks all the time, and I readily acknowledge that I am the product of great internships and great mentoring. My mentors, I can rattle them all off, but my mentors are lifelong mentors. The guys who were mentoring me back in undergrad I consider them family still. And my opportunities to be shaped and corrected and encouraged happened in my internships. There's the raw kind of hardworking kid that comes out of high school, maybe comes out of the first couple years of college, and then there's the refined version, the person who has the opportunity to mess up a little bit and get feedback. And that's what I value most about this opportunity with the MBA fellowship, is to say, this is an opportunity for several, we're talking about dozens of kids to land in Brooklyn with you and other teams around the league and be shaped and be encouraged and actually get a view of what professional life could look like for them. When I was a young guy, and you kind of mentioned it too, when you were mentioning Grant Hill, I always thought about the NBA as a place that I wanted to end up. I wanted to play in the NBA. That's all I ever pictured was, playing in the NBA. But I've never imagined or even envisioned, you could be a marketer in the NBA. You could be a lawyer in the NBA. So talk about some of that. Like, when did you see this opportunity, and how did it find you, or how did you find it? Talk about that in that journey, that part of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you just said, and I think that that's one of the beauties of this opportunity, this fellowship, is that everyone I knew wanted to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
None of us thought about working on the business side. We simply didn't know these opportunities existed, and we certainly didn't see people that looked like us, in these roles. And
Mm-hmm.
so my first job in sports was an agent. So I was a NBA and NFL agent for 6 years. I eventually became general counsel of that agency. But even then, working on the agency side of things, I still didn't really know what it looked like to work on the business side of a team.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, it wasn't until towards the end of my journey as an agent to where I started to see, oh, this is what president of a basketball team looks like. It's not just the general manager and the person that's making the moves, on the court. Like, I have nothing
Yeah.
to do with what happens on the court.
Right.
I have, a lot to do with how we show up on social media, how we celebrate Black History Month, how we celebrate women's impact. And so, like, I have stuff to do with that. So we partner a lot with the basketball side of things. But in terms of trades and acquisitions and all of that stuff, I oftentimes find out the same time you do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it seems like basketball, in that sense, is the cog. It's the widget, and you're still doing great, just business to promote the cog, or influenced by the cog and informed by the cog. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are 100% on the business side of things, and so
Yeah.
in my role as chief diversity officer, I have a lens into every department that we have on the business side. So some of that is HR, so reviewing our hiring slates, showing up
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that we get HBCU fellows in, but a lot of that is evaluating our partners and making sure that the people that we are accepting money from, we have a saying down south in Domino's, like, all money ain't good money.
Yeah.
And so it's like evaluating these partners to make sure that their value system aligns with us,
Yeah.
working with our merchandise team to make sure that, we have enough snapbacks and
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature so that we are appealing to a broader audience, working with our ticketing team to make sure that we are not just trying to get folks from Park Slope, like expanding to Bed-Stuy and Flatbush and all of those different areas. So it's a lot of thinking and interacting with how we can support the team.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. This may not have an answer. You can say no. How do you you kind of have the DEI toggle and the controls for the Nets, the Liberty, and Barclays? Is there any difference in how you have to engage in those three entities, from your seat, or is it all same skill set across the board?
No, it's different in each. And so, in addition to those three, we also have a G League team. So we have the Long Island Nets, and then we have a 2K team with Nets GC.
Yeah.
And each one of those is different. The fans aren't the same.
Right.
The personnel is not the same. The passion points of the players are not the same. And then the makeup of the employees are not the same. We have roughly 300 people on the business side, who work in one office, but we have another 1,100 people that work in the arena.
Yeah.
And the people in the arena come from different places oftentimes than the people who work on the basketball side. The social justice causes for the Liberty, while they may be somewhat similar in some respects to the social justice causes of the Nets, they have different passion points. And so, 2 years ago, the Liberty were, dedicated their season to say her name. Whereas on the Brooklyn Nets side of things, it's closer to empowering, Black and brown businesses and things of that nature. So show up differently for each of them. But really it's about, listening to the needs and the desires of each one of those things, and then shaping initiatives around that.
That makes sense. Got it. How does your department fit with human resources? Are they kind of peer relationships? Does one sit inside another? How do those departments connect?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at a lot of organizations, DEI sits in human resources. My department is standalone,
Hmm.
and so I would say maybe 10% of my time is spent on HR things. So I review all of our hiring slates, our employment practices, and then I run our employee resource groups, which is our affinity groups. So think Black Alliance Network, Pride, Latinx. But no, like I don't sit in HR. I report directly to the CEO and the owners of the team.
Right. Gotcha. Let's say that your department were to get a fellow this summer. I don't know if that's even possible. I know
It is.
the Nets are getting
It
some
is.
folks. What would you imagine would be some of the things that student would get access to, would start to learn and see, get an insight into?
Everything. I mean, so again, the beauty of my department is that we sit in everyone's meeting. So, working in my department will give you an opportunity to sort of touch everything, touch marketing, touch ticketing, touch human resources, touch finance.
Hmm.
So really broad scope. But one of the fun things that they'll get a chance to do is work on what we call our United Games platform. So every team does what's traditionally called theme nights. So think Black History Month, HBCU. We don't do theme nights. We do United Games because we didn't think that the theme of the day is Black people or the theme of the day is women. Like
Right,
it's
right.
um, but with each one of those games, we have a community aspect. So, for example, with MLK, our Black Alliance Network did a day of service to where they worked with a local community organization, did a career panel, sort of like what we're doing right now, and then gave them a tour of the arena. So to change the way that people, aspire. People aspire to what they see. So when you see people that look like you in these roles, changes the way that you see yourself. And um, so the community aspect of that, how we show up in the arena. So, we put together, the different content pieces that'll run. So like with Black History Month, we're doing two merchandise collaborations with Black designers. So we shoot content around that. They'll work in merchandising to help us come up with like who we can collaborate. And then I would say that the biggest thing that they'll do is work on our supplier diversity program. Like we are actively onboarding and supporting local minority owned businesses within the company.
Okay. That sounds fantastic. I know a few. I'm going to definitely make some recommendations for you.
That's perfect.
Yeah. You saw I'm sure you've seen it. There's a commercial that came out around the Super Bowl. It's LeBron James today sitting in his like high school bedroom talking to a young LeBron James in Akron. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So what would your advice be to young Jackie if you know this is where you want to end up today? You don't want to change the destination. I want to be here. What lessons or heads up would you give young Jackie? Because I imagine they would be very similar to the lessons we give these young students now who are aspiring to come work for you and build a career like you one day in the league.
Simply put, I'd say keep going. And so, if you have a dream, you have a goal, say it out loud and use everything in your power, to get there. I've had people, get internships with us and work for us that literally slid in my DMs on Instagram because they didn't get a response from HR.
Yeah.
And so like they wanted to make sure that they weren't passed over. Folks track me down on LinkedIn. Like those are things that show like just how passionate you are about that. And so, as a hiring manager, that's the type of tenacity that you like to see. That's the type of person that's going to like not stop because it's 5 o'clock. They're going to stop because their work is done.
Yeah.
And so I would say, keep going. Don't be shy, and be okay with being told no, because sometimes like eventually someone will tell you yes.
Right. 100%. Regarding your role as Chief DEI officer, if you're wildly successful this year or in the next couple of years, what does that look like? How does Brooklyn change? How does the Nets change? How does the organization change? What to you are some of the earmarks of being really successful at your role?
I would say, on the HR front, making sure that the makeup of the organization better reflects the makeup of our diverse borough.
Hmm.
On the supplier diversity front, making sure that we are not only engaging minority businesses, but leveraging our platform and our partners to provide support to help them scale, help them get more customers. Um, and then I would say on the marketing, our merchandise front, making sure that like the people that are listening to this, like see themselves as our fans. Like we are still what we call a startup out here. We are
Yeah.
finishing our ninth season in Brooklyn, and so not a lot of people have not grown up with us. And so
Yeah.
in order for us to attract a different type of fan, our fans, like, the people need to be able to see themselves. And so, like, that's in our merchandising, that's in, like, who we advertise with. And so those would be the three things that would really make me happy.
That's incredible. I grew up in New Jersey. So the nights when I see the Nets playing in our old colors, the red, white, and blue, that feels good. Because it doesn't feel like exactly, because it doesn't feel like my team history has just disappeared. It feels like, oh, okay, there's some continuity, which is fantastic. You know, what are some of the challenges to that success that you just described? What are some of the friction points that you're having to work through and overcome?
Um, I would say just educating people on the importance of these initiatives that we talked about. Everybody thinks about D&I through the lens of HR, but to me, D&I is essential to driving our bottom line.
Hmm.
Um, Again, it changes how we market. It changes how we do partnerships. It changes what merchandise we have, and so it's educating folks. Everybody, after this, period of great awakening that we've all gone through, folks are open and receptive to D and I work, but they don't always know what it means
Yeah.
and how it can benefit them. And so we're still in a place to where people are open to it because it's the right thing, which they certainly should be. But you get more engagement, you get more fired up when you see, like, how it can be beneficial to you. And
Yeah.
so that's the learning that we're working through now.
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to be important for organizations like the Nets and other organizations who are doing the work to also show some commercial success and resilience as a result of new inclusion, new voices in the decision making room. So I'm behind the effort. I'm really happy to have met you, and I'm really hoping to hear back from you that you got some incredible fellows in your organization, or in any of these organizations. That's actually an interesting question. Though it's an MBA HBCU fellowship, I wonder, do they also have reach into the WNBA, et cetera, or even the G League teams? What do you think? What have you heard?
I have not heard
Okay.
for WNBA or G League. There is an initiative with the 2K teams
Okay.
around that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Man, well, look, I want you to just look in the camera and tell everybody to apply to this fellowship. So let's get some great people to apply today. The application deadline is this Sunday. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. Please apply. Closed mouths don't get fed.
Listen, man, thank you so much for your time, Jackie. For me, when I get to meet great people doing great work, it's always the beginning of a relationship that I'm gonna be pushing to nurture and help you do incredible work, and hopefully I can throw you several assists. You know,
Looking forward to it.
yeah, it's my pleasure, and thanks so much for joining us, man.
All right. Thank you.